Hi, everyone. So I've been given a message from Jesus, and I've been given a meditation to take you guys through. If you are facing some fear in what's coming up at the moment. Now, I know that here where I live in Melbourne, Australia, there's a lot of fear, mainly because I've been around my family over the last week. So I was just thinking there's nothing wrong with having this little message be given, because if you're not fearful of this sickness, this COVID, and I'll explain his instructions to soon. This world can't be solved. You can't improve it. You can't make it better, because it's a projection from the mind. Now, it's really difficult to understand that until you've gone right within and you'll be shown it. So the analogy is that we're trying to go up to a screen, like in a cinema, something that is projected from the mind, from like a camera, and we're trying to yell at the actors and the characters on the screen, and even at believing ourselves to be in a world on the screen. So when we try to solve problems in the physical, it can't work. Every problem has to be solved within. And the answer is the strength of God. So lesson 47 and 48 were brought in by Jesus to me this week to say, anchor everyone in that. He's given me 2 steps. The first step is to think of COVID as a cold, and to think to yourself, do I fear getting a cold? Stop using the word COVID. Stop it, because it's connotations to the past. Okay? Every time someone says COVID to you, think into your mind, a cold. It's a cold. A cold. Am I fearful of a cold? Because what this will do, it will release the fear in your mind. That's because the world's media, everything here, I'm not getting into conspiracy theories or true or false, because that's all part of the dream. Everyone has a different fear in their mind. Some minds fear the vaccine, some fear the virus. So the way to be completely free of fear is these 2 steps which Jesus has given me. To tell yourself that it's simply a cold. So what we're doing is we're letting go of the past associations and we're gentling it down. We're bringing in a gentle 2 steps to freedom. So be really vigilant that you stop reading news about COVID. You stop reading news about the cold, I should say, and simply say people have a cold. And if I catch a cold, I will use Jesus' teachings. Now, the next step is lesson 47 and 48. If you are fearful around the vaccine or a cold, remember a vaccine is just a little bit of fluid put into your vein, put into your body. It does nothing. The same as some spittle in the air coming and landing on you. It can't affect you. Nothing can affect you except by your decision. Now, this is a really tough call for some of us that are really invested in bodies and identifying as a body. But this can gently maybe soften anything around this fear. So lesson 48, there is nothing to fear. You can lie in bed or sit down in a meditation and just keep repeating, there is nothing to fear. And lesson 47, God is the strength in which I trust. We've done these lessons in the last couple of months, but Jesus is telling me this is the key lesson. God is the strength in which I trust. This is the reason. It is obvious that any situation which causes you concern is associated with feelings of inadequacy. In other words, we feel we can't cope with it. We don't have the strength. We are associating with, we feel like, oh, what's going to happen? And what's the effects of this on me? Since otherwise you would believe that you could deal with the situation successfully. It is not by trusting yourself that you will gain confidence. We cannot trust in our own strength to gain confidence. But the strength of God in you is successful in all things. The strength of God. Now, if this just sounds wooden, this teaching, if you're sitting there and you're full of fear and the words feel woody, so they're not hitting you, you're not getting any sort of feeling of trust, just wait. Just keep repeating. There is nothing to fear, and God is the strength in which I trust. There are two teachings, but the third teaching from workbook lesson 136. Sickness is a defence against the truth. I will accept the truth of what I am and let my mind be wholly healed today. Those are a couple of lines in lesson 136. I will accept the truth of what I am and let my mind be wholly healed today. What I would suggest you do is really surrender, trying to combat something about a virus and a vaccine, okay? And surrender and tell yourself this world was over long ago. There is no virus. There is no vaccine. Nothing can touch the Holy Son of God. All the strength you have is within you, in God. If you can do a meditation or lie quietly and just say, God, bring me that strength. Because if you can hold your mind with God during this period of fear, you will be untouched. Nothing will come. There will be nothing changed. You won't get sick. You won't. You need to really apply this. The answer is anything like you could lie there and just call God's name, like we've done in some of the meditations where you just call out to God, or you can say, Holy Spirit, bring me anything that I need to know in this situation. And trust. This is a way to surrender, trust. Say, bring your strength to me. Bring it in. Let me feel your strength. Let go of all plans. Let go of all worry. Let go of trying to avoid anyone that seems to be sick. So now I'm not sure how many of you have this concern, but over here where I am, a lot of people are concerned. I'm just really glad that we have these teachings and we're all here together hearing them. It applies to all problems, but this particular issue seems to be one. Now we can use all these seeming like problems in the world as ways to come to God, to come closer to that inner light. I'm going to do a Q&A now, and then I'll do the meditation based on these three answers that he's brought forth. just know that you can trust. You can trust in the strength of God. Feel it. Just say, bring that strength to me, God. You talk to God very personally. Like just talk to him like a really good friend. Jesus, help me. I'm fearful of whatever. Bring something into my mind. I'm listening. So be very sincere and very honest about your fear and very sincere in asking. And he will bring an answer into you. That's just a message that I got. Actually, I think it was yesterday that came through. It doesn't matter what it is. Sarah's just said it's helpful for something else. As we say, all problems are the same. The answer is the same answer. So if anyone would like to write any questions in the chat, because I can see the screen, I can answer. I haven't really gone through who's here. So just before I start answering questions, I'd just like to say I had a lovely time yesterday being interviewed by Ricardo. I think it went for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. It was just gorgeous. There was just so much love. You know, he's just such a beautiful, I'm getting tears now. So lovely to share that love and be helpful and be in that divine relationship and extend it out. I wasn't guided to go too deeply into ACIM terminology because it felt like Jesus was really guiding me when I was sharing, but because there would be a lot of people listening that weren't sort of or maybe even hadn't heard of A Course in Miracles. And I don't think Rick knew much about it either. And I think I'm only the fourth person that he's interviewed around A Course in Miracles. And I'm sure in years to come there will be many more people that will be interviewed because I think A Course in Miracles is getting really popular. The teachings are easy. How wonderful it is to have this beautiful book with all these answers for us, and all we need to do is apply them. So we're so lucky to be part of this beautiful coming to God, you know, walking each other up that mountain together, holding hands. So I was guided over like the last couple of days, in fact the last week, during the night. I was sometimes kept up till about 2:30 one morning with him bringing in these really deep teachings for me to give to Rick to bring onto the interview. It may not have felt like I went too deeply, but it was really good. So Keith has just said, I really appreciated your answer about the Nazis regarding how we might deal. Yeah, and it was interesting because, I mean, I don't even have to think about an answer. As soon as someone finishes the question, he's given me the answer. And it's not like it's an answer that wouldn't be my answer, because he was just saying that love can change this so-called world, because we're changing the mind when we're extending love. So that when anyone appears to be frightened of us or attacking us or saying something they're scared, even though he says it's a call for love, how we answer, how we see that call for love and the answer has to come from our inner guide, because Jesus says, I will take over, I will tell you what to do and say. So in an answer, I can't give specifics, because in any situation he's in charge and he's going to tell us what to do and say. But the general teaching is that we have an opportunity to be in the love, to see only the Christ standing before us, to be unafraid of a gun or a uniform or what authority that person might have, to see the sameness, that he thinks he's a body, he's got an ego mind, he's in his mind, and I'm overlooking that. And my job is to be the Christ self. My job is to lose this identity as a body, to lose this idea that if this body dies, I die, and come to see that I'm spirit. I really am God's love, and this body is now repurposed to be extending. The words will be loving, the actions will be loving. As core students, we can really understand that message, and I'm sure other people from other spiritual paths hearing that would have connected that that's always the answer, to be love, to let Jesus direct us in that moment. Even if you've got a knife or a rifle pointing at you and someone's yelling at you, and even if you were taken to a concentration camp, they can't take away the experience of God's love in your mind. They can't take away anything, because nobody can take away your mind. They can kill your body, but that's not you. All the teachings from the Course bring about this beautiful way of being in the world, because we're not leaving the world when we awaken. We're still in the dream, and we're just seeing it as a dream. We're unaffected because we've had the experience. So we're going for the experience of being spirit, of not being a body. Some experience of being outside the body, or not being located in the body, or being free of the body. And then we can know, he says, that once we sort of have that experience, it really loosens the identity that we feel. We feel that, we're born and we're in the ego. We just have this feeling like I'm this body, and I've got to spend all my time here trying to make sure the body doesn't die. And that's exhausting. This is so exhausting, to spend all your time trying to keep alive something that's never been alive. It has no life, because it's a projection. It's just an image in the mind. Even this Zoom group right now, and what we're doing, it's all happening in a dream world. And everything that I'm saying might be helping you, but once your mind gets back to knowledge and knows where you are and what you are, all this will disappear. You won't remember anything about this meeting, because you remember. And once you remember, everything that you have done here disappears in your mind. The only reason why you would maybe talk about it or remember it would be as for teaching to someone else. This is not meant to be fearful. It can feel sometimes fearful to think this world is not real, we're not our body, what are we? There's that little gap that he talks about, that we're letting go of body identification and moving into spirit or mind or love identification, because these things that we're now starting to identify with have no form. And so we've got to get used to a different way of being, because here we're all about form. Everything seems to be physical, but it's not. It's just a big nothing dream, and we all will see that in the end. I think somebody's posted something up. Hang on, I've just got to put my phone down here and try to get to see the question. Can you talk about when we speak, point out when we see a brother in pain or in their stuff versus stepping back in quiet and trusting they will find their way? I imagine it has something to do with guidance, but I'm wondering if you have particular ways of knowing if it'd be helpful or not to speak or to be quiet. Yes, it is guided. It's purely guidance. There's no right or wrong thing to do there. There's really no answer to that. You really have to feel into it. One thing I would say is, if you feel to say something to someone and you feel some sort of sense of, you can check in, am I trying to fix or change them? You'll get a sense of whether it feels really flowy or whether it feels like you're trying to bring a solution in to get them well or to change them. When you speak from the Holy Spirit, it will just sort of flow out naturally. There'll be no attachment to them, even listening or hearing or acknowledging that they've heard or even saying, yes, I'll do that. They'll just be like coming through you and disappearing. And you'll just know that the message was just meant to be said or not. You'll just know a lot of the time, generally guided pretty much not to say anything until someone asks me something. Or you can get a sense when you're around someone, they'll start a conversation. Like my dad started talking about these books on saints that he had been reading. And, you know, we started having a bit of a conversation about God and different things. This was a couple of months ago. And I did say a few things. So what happens is generally I feel this lightness, you know, a really light conversation, something, nothing too deep, just a sort of like, it just, and it's very, and then you'll feel if the person says something more, it's like an invitation. Now, sometimes I've been called very, very rarely to say something, just a very direct thing, and then stop. We remember we're not defending anything. And so if it feels like any type of defence, you're using the spiritual teachings to try to change someone or get someone to agree with you or, you know, like your teaching. So it's always that fine line. So there's no sort of one way to do it. And that's why coming to have a really quiet mind, spending time in quietness, really going deeply and just saying, God, I want to experience this love that you talk about in the Course. You know, I want to know you. I want to experience this infinite, eternal love. I want to let go of all thoughts of separation and come to you. So you can sort of say it in your own way, but it's really just saying, I'm letting go of this world. It doesn't mean that you won't get up in the morning and use things here, but you'll just know that this is not your real home. Your real home is in God. But you'll still be in the dream, but you'll be looking and seeing everything very differently. I'll just go on to the next question. My phone down again. So this is from Brendan. I have a question. I've always been searching to find out who I truly am, but it seems everywhere I look, I can never find anything to make sense of it. I hear you, Cate, and many other teachers say that they have realised they came to a place where they have realised they are not really anyone. So my question, I guess, revolves around pure awareness and not really being any... So, hang on, I think it's hard to scroll down here. I'm just having trouble scrolling. Just a minute, I'll try and get back to the question again. So my question, I guess, revolves around pure awareness. I have opened up over the years of doing the course and studying and practicing it to this realisation of me being pure awareness and not really being anyone, just being the awareness of it all. At first this scared me because the ego would come and say, oh, that's boring, or there is nothing to it. But now I see that there really is nothing to it, and that's the beauty of it. I'm not sure if I'm confused about this or if I've actually gotten somewhere in remembering who I truly am. What do you think of that? Am I on the right track? Is it really I am that, like most module teachers say? When you come to that awareness, when the non-dual teachers speak about awareness, it's like a step on the ladder where you can probably notice there's no self-referencing thoughts. There's self-referencing thoughts, the ego thoughts that compare. So self-referencing is thoughts that reference you compared to someone else, or you compared to how you were a few days ago. So they're thoughts that are referencing you as a self, and those ego thoughts always bring thoughts about you as an individual separate body with an individual personality. So when you get to this awareness, in my experience, I'm just getting to that now, and I'm just saying that's where your mind, I guess you could say it's peaceful. But one thing about non-duality is they don't really talk about the beloved. They don't really talk about this beautiful infinite love. So to me, that feels like there's another step, even though there's no steps, but it feels like there's another step, that you're one with God. So the next step along there is that feeling of going into that infinite, vast, beautiful love that's limitless. I think Carton and Persa talk about that in one of the books about where the Buddha got to, and then the next step along is God, and God is all there is, and there's nothing but God, which just means infinite love. So there's nothing but infinite love, eternal love, like a love, boundless love, and that's our true home. I've never really gone down the track of trying to get to awareness, which a lot of the non-dual teachers teach, but I think what they're doing is they're getting to that decision maker. That's what I'm sort of thinking, in the way we are taught to move back into that part of our mind that can choose between the ego and the Holy Spirit. And it's like that place is the chooser, and that's where you're aware of your thoughts. So it's really hard because these are teachings that are pointing you to your mind, and everything is in our mind, so we have to turn within and look. And what I would say to you, Brendan, is that if you are following someone and you feel it's working and you're getting to that awareness and it feels peaceful, then that's working. Any teaching that gets you to peace. But I would also encourage you to just sort of reach out and say, I want to go all the way. I want to go into that infinite love. I want to experience that beautiful, holy love. That's where I am. That's the kingdom of heaven that's within me. The oneness. That would be what my answer would be to that. Now, I have heard of some non-dual teachers talk about the beloved. It'd be really nice if they talked a little bit more about that, wouldn't it? No? Because it's like we're all scared. We just want to get to awareness, but nobody wants to get to this love. Teresa, one that I still can't grasp is how to let go of feeling responsible for young adult children and trust they will be all right. When I feel I'm getting better at it, they present me with all their bodily issues and their own anxieties and depression. How can I just be at peace when I think of them and see them as only light? Okay. She says, I think you just answered my question. I've got actually a really helpful thing because, I've had children in this lifetime, and so I can sort of share. This is a really good way to think about this. Jesus says when we have children, we have a responsibility for bringing them up and being there, like there's a responsibility here to be helpful to our children on a practical level, like, providing food or helping them and listening into his guidance. When they get to a particular age where they're able to start to leave the nest type of thing, becoming young adults, always it's listening into the guidance is the key issue here. The one thing that really helped me was to constantly remind myself that when my children are born coming through, it's nothing to do with having a good life here. It's nothing to do with thinking, I hope they get a good job, I hope they get good grades, I hope they meet someone they can fall in love with and have a good life and have a good marriage. You have to forget all of that. That's just the ego's way of looking out and saying that's what happiness is. Our children's lives are about waking up to their true self and coming to know that inner peace. And we can't know where they are on their journeys. Each dream lifetime we come back into, we have more and more learning and more forgiveness opportunities. The best thing you can do for your child or children is have your own mind awakened. Then you can listen into guidance more easily and speak anything to them, saying things that could be truly helpful. But feeling responsible for answering their problems. We all have to suffer, because in the suffering we realise that there's no happiness here when we're seeking to get things of this world. So suffering is not a bad thing. It makes you turn to God in the end. It makes you turn to spirituality or something that's going to lead you eventually. So the Holy Spirit is in charge and is in your children's mind. We only have the ego of the Holy Spirit in our mind, and the Holy Spirit is working in our minds all the time. The best way about feeling responsible, whether it's your children or your elderly parent, anyone you feel, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for them, for their happiness, immediately let go of that idea. Say, Holy Spirit, you have this idea I am responsible. You tell me that my only job is to be helpful. And to be truly helpful, I need to listen into what you would know would be their best interest in knowing or understanding. So I don't know my child's best interests, but when I'm listening into my inner guide, and when I started doing this, just amazing stuff would happen. I would say or do completely different things to when I was in fear. When we're in fear, what we're doing is we're thinking our child is a body and we need to help them have better stuff for the body, whether it be better health. It's all around body stuff. We're so linked in our mind to their body and to their survival of the body. The only helpful thing we can really do is to see their holiness, and of course it's not to be silly and deny they're a body, of course, but you hold it really lightly around their body stuff, and you try to maybe have 95 of your mind focused on their holiness and talk to that holiness and be the love. You don't have to in your mind say, I don't want to hear anything about their body, but they let them express stuff about their body. But that's when you need to ask for the answer, because the answer will come through in a beautiful way. The thing about listening to guidance and really being attuned to the Holy Spirit or Jesus' answer is the only way you can really be truly helpful. Anytime you feel responsible for your children or parents or siblings or anyone, you will be most unhelpful. Just remember that. You will be extremely unhelpful when you feel responsible. So try to, as quickly as you can, let go of the idea I'm responsible and say, you be in charge. You tell me what to do and when. You know, you be my responses. It's a little bit like rules for decision. There's nothing wrong with when your child asks you something or your parents ask you something, you stop and pause and just ask, because that's what I used to do when I was starting to learn to listen to what response would be best. We can't know our child's best interest. Remember, what we see as retreats can be advances. We can't judge our own retreats and advances, and we can't know our children's or our parents' retreats or advances. We just can't know where anyone is on their spiritual journey, where they're at, what's being used as a way to them to turn to God. That's why listening in and trusting that we don't know, that's why we trust that I'll be helpful. And sometimes we don't say anything, and that can be the best, and that will be guided. I'm usually here, stay quiet, I'm in charge. I don't need to know what he's doing in their mind, but I just hear, stay quiet, all is well, I'm in charge, just trust. And that's all I need to do, because I can't see where I'm at on the timeline, what he's going to do and how he's going to bring it in. And as most of you know, my daughter was raped when she was 14, and she started taking drugs because she was really upset. She's very open about this, so I'm not disclosing anything. Because what happened for me was I used this situation for Jesus to help me. I didn't realise I was helping her at the same time. And I really had to listen in, because the answers that came through were nothing that I could have worked out for myself. He got me to look at all the fear in my mind, and he said, you're identifying her as a body. This is all fear around her being a body. And then as I let go of even her dying, I had to come to peace to that, because he said she's not a body. She's not a body. She is spirit. I came to be at peace with that, and he says, only when you're at peace with that will you be truly helpful to her. So I had to have all that undone in my mind. And then when I went to see her, that was the first time I'd ever done the Christ blessing, and I did it, and it was like something, I think I've shared this before, it was like the room shook. It was like a vibration in the air. It was like I could feel, but it was really like something shifted, and maybe I shifted different timelines. I don't know, but it definitely felt like this vibration. It was like I joined my mind, first of all, to its true source, saw the beauty of her, and then everything that came through. And yeah, there was like, she would say, Mum, could you buy me a packet of cigarettes? So it was normal daily stuff that she was asking me. I would sort of listen in and say, here a yes or a no, and sometimes it was a yes and sometimes it was a no. I couldn't know. But all she knew was that there was just this beautiful love from me. I stopped trying to get her to change. I stopped trying to tell her, you need to get off drugs, you need to get some counselling, blah, blah, blah. And I just stopped all those old habits of trying to fix and change her and get her better. This is all part of that sort of 2-year period. I was working with the Holy Spirit and Jesus to really change my mind. He was really using these situations in this lifetime, the big forgiveness opportunities that we all have. The best way, give over responsibility, let it go. Just remind yourself, if I feel responsible, not only will I not be helpful, but I'll try to get away from any person I feel responsible for. You'll notice it. You'll try to cut them off, give them a quick answer. Well, that's my answer. Now leave me alone. Because the ego says, this is too much responsibility. I hate responsibility. I hate that I'm responsible, but I am responsible, and it keeps you in a state of irritation and frustration. And so you try to give the answer, you try to get them to sort it out, then you're like, right, well, I'm done now, leave me alone. I've got to have my quiet time. And you'll want to get away from that person. I did it with my daughter. I was like, go to your dad, see your dad. Maybe he's better off. Maybe you're better off at his place. Because I could tell I wanted to get away from her, but then the ego would say, you're a terrible mother trying to get away from her. You're responsible for this. You have to try to help her. And it's a no-win cycle in that. So you can look within yourself if you feel responsible for your children or anyone else and see how the ego says you're responsible and gives you things to say and do, and see how they never work, and then you feel irritated. You know, Jesus even says you want to get rid of them, right? And you do, because you've got to be really honest about what you're doing. Have a look. You'll see there's those feelings of like, God, I just wish they'd leave me alone. And you're like, oh, okay, so everything Jesus is saying, I'm in my ego, asking the ego how to solve this problem, and I've not gone to the Holy Spirit and said, show me how you would look upon this. And so when I sat down and did, he showed me she has her own journey in this lifetime. It's got nothing to do with you. Your job is to forgive everything and look at everything differently. Be with God. Have the Holy Spirit correct all your misperceptions. You're looking at her as a body. You can't, a body in a world, nothing can work here. You're trying to fiddle around in a world with bodies and seeing her as a body. And I'm not asking you to do that. And so once I started applying, you know, seeing her holiness, all of a sudden things started getting better. I was like, oh my goodness, this really does work. So you just have to keep trusting. And sometimes when you start changing, it can look like things get worse. That's been my experience a few times. But if you hang in there and trust, it gets better. So if you do start doing this in a work and the child seems to get worse, hang in there and trust. Right? He kept just saying to me, just trust. She will be fine. Just keep trusting. We can't see what's going on in the mind, how her mind's being healed. And I was a huge part of her transformation because I was the only one that saw her truly. Everyone else in my family had written her off. She would just text me and say, Mum, I'm lost. And I thought, all I can do is do this course properly and apply its teachings to the best of my ability. And now she's just this beautiful light. She takes these meditations. She just says, Mum, I'm loved. No, it's all about love. I'm spreading the love. I'm teaching everyone their love. And who would have thought from if you had seen her years ago and how she was, you would have just written her off. She was like skin and bones and lank hair and just, yeah, she just took so many drugs. And I mean, sometimes when I saw her, she was like psychotic. But my inner guide was saying, don't look at it, don't react. No, your job is to see only her holiness. And I had to look past everything and stay with my inner guide teaching me how to look upon everyone. And then that got generalised across everyone. Trust. Ask for his help and he will help you. If you ask sincerely, you will get an answer. So Wesley, can you explain the general process of moving from special to holy relationship, committed part relationship? So nice to see you, Wesley and Angie. Yes, obviously you've read the text of the Course in Miracles around special and holy relationships. One of the things I did when I met Kevin is I asked him, would you like to enter into a holy relationship, put the Holy Spirit in charge? And he said yes. I mean, looking back now, this was years ago, I didn't really need to do that, but it was really nice to do it, okay? But what will really doing. So Wesley and Angie, you can just get together if you're really open to doing this and holding hands and looking at each other and look into each other's eyes and just say, I'm putting the Holy Spirit in charge of the relationship I have with you. Now, we are relating to each other through our thoughts, because all we see with eyes as an image, an outline, colours. Like if I look at you, Angie, all I see is a cream-coloured top, some stripes, some brown hair. I can't see the colour of your eyes really, but I see you. So all I'm seeing is an image. You're looking at me, you're seeing an image, right, on the screen. So the only way I can relate to you and you relate to each other is through your thoughts, your ego thoughts. And so what happens is if Angie does something to upset you, Wesley, you would have to be referring to the past, because you couldn't know that that would upset you unless you're calling on the past. Your work is to relate to Angie through the Holy Spirit. So when you relate to Angie through the ego, you're relating through specialness, the ego's specialness. I desire Angie to be like this to me. I desire her to do this. Some things you'll say, some things you'll hold back and say she should know. She should know this. I don't need to tell her. This is what the ego says, right? Tell yourself, the way to have a holy relationship with Angie, I'm talking to Wesley now, I don't know why, but this is just directed directly to Wesley for some reason. Your prayer should be, I want to let go of all specialness. I want to relate to the holiness of Angie only. I want to relate to her as spirit. Give us some examples of how the Holy Spirit helped me. And I mean, it's a really typical example. For me, it was just like I wanted Kevin to send me flowers on Valentine's Day. And it was an ego, right? Because the ego wants stuff like that. It was like, well, he should know it's Valentine's Day. He should show his love. And I was very aware of these thoughts that were coming up. And they were saying, you know, love is shown by remembering a particular day and sending flowers and saying some lovely words to me. And I quickly identified that that was the ego's specialness, because God's love doesn't need anything proved to it. It doesn't need to know by flowers or words. So I quickly gave that to the Holy Spirit. And I said, how would you look at this? And he just said, look, the Holy Spirit just showed me that for me to have thoughts about Valentine's Day and flowers and what they represent would have to be this world stuff and the past. Coming to this moment without the past, I came to now. The ego was also, because no flowers arrived, no message for Valentine's Day, because Kevin doesn't believe in Valentine's Day, so I didn't know that. So it didn't arrive. And I could feel the ego arising with lots of thoughts about, yep, rightio, see, doesn't care about you. And so I had to say, Holy Spirit, you have these thoughts. It feels funny to talk about it now, because those thoughts are so long gone. But that's what we deal with when we start out. We're dealing with these really, really petty ideas about love that the ego has. So I just became aware of the thoughts. This was well before I was aware. I had the awareness of the ego and the separate self and all this sort of stuff in my mind. When we're starting out, we just have to become aware of any ideas about anything where we get upset with our partner about anything. So we have to take to the Holy Spirit. The commitment is really to each other, is to say to each other, I will, to the best of my ability, take anything that I'm projecting onto you to the Holy Spirit. But sometimes I'll probably forget. And can you not react when I do that, when I project onto you? Can you be in your right mind and help me by staying quiet, or maybe you get guidance to say something? So that's what you need to do for each other, because you will forget. You will occasionally, no matter how really seriously you are at catching your projections and taking them to the Holy Spirit, you will forget. You have to be open and committed to not reacting when the other projects onto you and says, you did this, you made me feel this way, which is what we all do, right, as egos, we project. What we're talking here is what Course calls the world dream. This is the world dream, the little things that we deal with daily. And we will get to the secret dream, which is all the hidden stuff in our unconscious mind about all that really hidden hatred that the ego has. And it will arise at the right time. I don't know whether this has been helpful, but that was the really most helpful thing I did and Kevin did, was we owned our projections. We said, to the best of our ability, I'm going to own what I'm projecting onto you. And at times when I forget, please be in your right mind so that you take any reaction you have to what I've said to the Holy Spirit or to your right mind. Now, Jesus says, even in with the sections about the special/holy relationship, if one of you is in your right mind, it can be helpful. So only one of you need to be in your right mind. Now, I would say it's different for everyone. You might like to discuss things, but personally, how I did my journey was I never talked about the upset to my partner. I always took it straight to the Holy Spirit, and that healed. Occasionally I would say to Kevin, oh, you know that time when you said blah, 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 my ego got all upset about it, and I did forgiveness on it, and I was shown this. Sometimes I'd tell him because the answer was so beatific. So the answer is another perception. It's not just giving it to the Holy Spirit, it's saying, give me another way to look at this. Above all else, I want to see this differently is one of the lessons, and that's the forgiveness. So when you're so for me, when I had the ego ranting and raving that I wasn't getting the special love and he didn't love me because of this, I took it to the Holy Spirit, and the different perception that he brought in really helped change it. And I let go, and the Holy Spirit said, this whole Valentine's Day is rubbish. What, you go and pick some flowers from the garden and it's meant to represent something? So he used to show me really detailed what I was putting a specialness. And he said, so what, if a little kid picked a flower and gave it to you, you know, that's just the same. It's like, don't make any day, any action special. Really, it's the consistency of God's love through us that is the answer. His guidance, the Holy Spirit's guidance to me for Kevin was be consistently loving no matter what. Always loving. Never react. Never demand he change. Never demand he take back anything he says. Never demand he apologise. Never, ever, ever to, if there was any upset, take it straight to him. So our wedding vows were, even though we got married sort of traditionally, I wrote some wedding vows out for him and I put them on Facebook, and I just said, you know, I commit to continuing to take responsibility for my projections. I continue to extend love to you and never demand that you have to do something for that love to flow through me. He's been here about I think he's been here just 4 years, and there's never once in those 4 years, or even the years when we were in an online relationship and he was in Canada, never once had I demanded he change, no matter what's said. Never. It's always been love. It's been consistent love, and that's how you heal someone, because remember, how you heal someone is you give him the demonstration that he is sinless. There's 5 messages. Please speak more about vaccine effectiveness, harmfulness. Okay, I can't speak on the vaccine. If you look at lesson 76, he says that little thing in that injection does nothing to you. It does nothing. Just keep reading lesson 76. I used to go to that, read it over and over again. You could focus on that for a week if you feel. There's nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. Okay? They're not effective and they're not harmful. They're neutral. There's nothing to fear. The cause of my upset is my thoughts. Get ego attacks from time to time that scare me exhaustively. Do the 3 steps you suggest. Ego attacks from time to time that scare me. Anything from the cause can help you, but perfect love casts out fear. I've had people in the past say to me that during the night they wake up and they're scared. They just feel really fearful. So perfect love casts out fear. Even if you had to imagine a little kitten or a little puppy dog that you feel you can love, that will take that fear away. Even if you need to step up because you haven't got an awareness of God's love. This is to Robin. Just get your mind into perfect love. It casts out the fear. Right? Any way you can. Just say, think of Jesus. Just see Jesus' face. Anything to shift your attention from that fear. So perfect love casts out fear. Now remember I did that meditation last week where that one thought of joy, just think of joy during the day. Just do that. Just say, I'm just going to think of joy, and then I'm going to think of peace, and then I'm going to think of limitless release. It gives those 3 sentences. So you could do that. You might even see yourself like dancing or skipping or with your friends, having a good time. It doesn't have to be abstract. It can just be something that shifts your mind. I used to say, Holy Spirit, bring me a word or a phrase. And I immediately would get something in my mind and then I would repeat it. So we finished our questions. Thank you to everyone. We'll just go through a little meditation to finish. Basically, this meditation is going to be me reading out these lines from these 3 lessons. They sort of form together, and this is to do with sickness, and it doesn't have to be your fear of a little cold. Remember, Jesus says to look at COVID as a little cold. And a step in would be to look at the vaccine as like a vitamin, a little vitamin shot. Anything to ease the fear, a step in. Okay, let's just close our eyes in the last few minutes. Take a few breaths. So all I'm going to do is just say some words. There is nothing to fear. God is the strength in which I trust. trusting in my own strength. In my own ideas. I let go of all my thoughts about anything that is concerning me now. I trust in you, God. You are life. You are vitality. You are joy. You are limitless. I am strong, not weak. There is nothing to fear. If I'm fearful, I'm trusting in my own strength. Let go of trusting in my own ideas. I surrender. Come into my mind. Bring in your beautiful love. Heal me of all the beliefs in littleness. Your perfect love casts out all fear. I surrender. I let go. I let go of all planning. All beliefs about what is good or bad. I will accept the truth of what I am and let my mind be wholly healed today. Bring in the truth of what I am. I want to experience it. I want to know this love. I want to experience it. I want to have it as my being. I want to be able to walk around in this world free of all fear, with a mind resting in peace. Come in and show me what I need to see differently. Correct all errors in my mind. I want to be the instrument of thy peace. I want to be helpful. I let go of all ideas that I'm responsible. Really, you're responsible. My only responsibility is having you correct my errors of thinking and bringing in my true thoughts, so I can rest in those thoughts of how beautiful I am, how holy I am, how lovely I am, how completely pure I am. And let me look upon my brothers with that in my mind. Be in my mind today. Reveal my true self, which is really just an experience of peace and love and joy. I let go of the world. I'm not interested in ideas about a virus or a vaccine or any other concerns. I accept that this is a projection. Come into my mind and help me look at everything how you see it. Show me how I'm not a body. Show me how my true self is spirit. Love. Infinite love. There is nothing to fear. There is only fear thoughts. And I let them go. Stay close to me. Holy Spirit. Jesus. Be with me. You lead the way. I step back. If I am fearful of being harmed by anything, I give you all my thoughts that I can be harmed. You show me. Lead me, guide me, bring something in to help. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Thank you for whoever had the inspired idea to let me use the audio this way. I'm guided to go through some of the trickier parts of the course this year, and also I'm feeling I might do the manual for teachers. So we'll continue on this meeting and hopefully get the audio worked out before next week. Thank you. If you want to unmute yourselves, and we'll just do a little blessing for each other.
Love you. I love you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, everyone.
I love you.
Thank you.
So much. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Kate.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
That was divine.
Certainly was.
Goodbye from Australia.
Hey, Shannon.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.
And thanks, Annie.
Thanks, Annie.
Thanks, Annie.
Thanks, Annie.
Okay, guys, I'm going to close the room, end the meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Love you.